This program is brought to you by Express Employment Professionals, respecting people, impacting business. Located in Durango, serving the Four Corners area.
Durango residents who've searched for a place to rent or a house to purchase know that housing isn't cheap around here. But just how expensive is it? A new housing plan completed by the City of Durango's Department of Community Development indicates that the median price for a residential unit is climbing towards $400,000. More than 40% of homeowners and 50% of renters are burdened by the cost of housing because mortgages and monthly rents exceed more than 30% of their incomes. And the cost of an average house has grown from 3.5 times the average area income to nearly 7 times more than that. Burdensome housing costs for Durango workers are both an economic and social issue. High-cost housing makes it harder to find and retain employees because they can't afford to live here. It contributes to urban sprawl and more pollution as residents commute from rural areas. And it forces talented young workers to move to larger urban areas to raise their families. Durango is losing its generational diversity and an important economic driver. When you spend all your money on rent, you don't have a lot left over to spend in town. And if consumers aren't generating sales tax revenues, public services suffer.
It's limiting the amount of sales tax that the city can generate to pay for its employees and to pay for the companies that operate here. So one of the secondary goals of having more affordable housing is that people can put more into the local economy other than just paying their rent.
The new housing plan, developed over the past year with the guidance of a housing advisory committee, community meetings, and a housing survey, finally outlines concrete steps that the city can take to make 1,000 housing units permanently affordable in the city limits. The plan will be presented at a community meeting at 5 p.m. on Monday, October 30th at the Durango Recreation Center. The plan identifies how the city can support private development of affordable housing through policy and regulatory changes, financing, and public-private partnerships. On the regulatory front, for example, developers say the city's parking requirements add as much as 40% more to the cost of development. The plan recommends reducing the required number of parking spaces per residential unit to lower costs. That's just one example. The plan also explores financing options for a housing trust fund that the city would use for public-private partnerships and infrastructure loans.
One of the strategies that we've been thinking about is how do we still get money for affordable housing but not make it an upfront cost. One thing that's happened in 2 of our bigger developments in Three Springs and Twin Buttes is we have a transfer fee. So whenever there's a real estate transaction, a house is sold and bought by someone else, there's a fee on that, and that's voluntary. The developers of Three Springs and Twin Buttes agreed to do that. So that's one way where we can reduce the upfront costs but still have money over the long term that we can put into our affordable housing program and turn around and use that to leverage grants or loans, or even, it's possible in the long term that we could provide something like infrastructure loans.
The proposed plan will be presented to the City Planning Commission and City Council for approval in December. If you'd like to learn all about the options outlined in the plan, you can download a copy at durangogov.org.